Oh, thanks. Welcome everyone. Hi. So let's just take a few minutes to rewind, unwind. Try and think of your motivation for coming. What do you think you're going to find in this little quest of life? And maybe you can find it if you keep looking in the right area. So allow yourself the space to not be bothered with all the things that bother you all the time, all the common patterns that we have, whether it's self-talk or hopes of something wonderful changing just around the corner if I just do the right thing. Just let it go for a little while, get the mind to neutral, and then just look at things with a fresh perspective. So to do that, let's invite and bribe. Who was here for the mandala teachings? Yeah, that was awesome, right? So let's make a bribe and imagine a perfect universe if you know how to do it good. If not, just like this, and just create the most perfect world you can imagine and then multiply it, covering the sky, and offer it to whatever it is that teaches you wisdom.
Sashi
Pukir Jishin Metop Drum Rira Linshin Yindegam Padi Sangha Shindu Mite Viwari Dropun Namda Shinla Chiparsho Hidam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamyatayami Sangye Chidam Tsoki Chaknam Janchu Bardu Dakmi Kapsuchi Daki Junyen Gipe Sonam Ki Drola Penchir Sangye Druparsho Chudam Soki Chognam Janchu Bardu Dakni Kapsuchi Daki Junyen Gipe Sonam Ki Drola Penchir Sangye Druparsho Chudam Soki Chognam Janchu Bardu Dakni Kapsuchi Daki Junyen Gipe Sonam Ki Drola Penchir Sangye Drupasho. So take a comfortable seated position, if you can. Try and forget the body for the next few minutes as we go deeper, layer after layer, into that thing you call mind, that thing you call you, your consciousness. So once you're comfortable, scan your body for any tension around your legs or torso. Really allow your mind to cover the entirety of your body and relax anywhere it finds some tension. It's like a fist unclenching. Make sure your spine is straight and your shoulders are not hunched forward or to the side. In particular, your brow. Relax your face. Begin to allow your body to breathe. Just feel the sensation of the breath entering and exiting your nostrils. If If your mind moves away from the sensation of the breath, that's fine. It's a beautiful opportunity to allow the watchfulness in your mind to bring it back gently, just gently. Return your focus to the breath until you become one with the breath. You lose yourself in it. You are nothing but that breath. Just take 3 more breaths now. Each exhale, you're removing any echo of any concerns, anything that's going to worry you is coming out of you with each exhale until you're left purely and utterly present. Now I'd like you to bring your mind to the most distant place, the most beautiful place you can imagine, high up in a mountain, far away from anything. It's just this perfect cabin where you're inside it. There's a massive window and you can overlook a valley and a mountain range in the distance. It's just you in there, perfectly still, everything around you, a massive blue sky. You get lost in the blue sky from horizon to horizon. It's too vast. The sun is setting far away and it's pouring golden light into your room. You feel the warmth on your skin. You decide to sit down to meditate. So you take a seat on your meditation cushion. You close your eyes, remembering everything drenched in golden light. Vibrant and still. From the depths of your heart, your deepest mind, you call out, you invite the most evolved being that you can imagine exists. If you have a teacher, this is where you invite your teacher. And as soon as you think of them, just a millisecond of the idea of them brings them to you, and they are seated in front of you in the most splendorous way you can imagine. Maybe they're glowing in light. Maybe they're solid like you. Maybe you can't even see them, but you know there is someone present in front of you. You feel like a gravity pull in front of you. You're seated very close to each other in meditation posture. Your knees are almost touching. There's a deep awareness in your entire body that perfection is in front of you. A mind that perceives perfectly how things truly are. And in that perfection flows the highest bliss, a kind of love that's beyond anything you've experienced so far. Just observe them for a while and imagine their highest quality. Maybe if you're looking at them, you can look in their eyes and get lost in there as deep as the blue sky. If you feel them energetically, feel at your heart what it would be like to feel anything close to the kind of love and compassion mixed with wisdom that they have. What would it be like? out of deep kindness, you make them some kind of offering. You just share with them or give them something of beauty, the most lovely thing you can conjure up, and watch them accept it and enjoy it, filled with bliss as they interact with that thing you've presented them, be it an idea, a memory, a feeling, or an object. Now, to remove any obstruction to bliss or wisdom, make some efforts to clean up anything that's in your conscience in front of them with their full understanding upon you. Think back at your last week or so and think, what was the least kind thing you've done, or the darkest thing you've done, the thing that prevents you from joy. Maybe you were harmful to somebody, or had a moment of deep jealousy and acted badly. This is not to feel guilty, this is just so you could recognize something you could stop in the future. Just by the act of recognizing it, bringing it to mind, having some regret around it, and making efforts not to do it again, you can clean that from your consciousness, particularly in front of your teacher. Show it to them with a fervor and a want to remove that from your life. Recognize how every action must give you a result that's similar to the action, and recognize that this will bring you suffering. It's the only reason to stop it. And truly feel you're making headways by recognizing the errors. You could clean them up. Feel good about that. And now do the opposite. Think back in front of your teacher, who can see all the subtle things that you're experiencing. Think back at the most beautiful thing, the kindest thing, the best you that you have been in the last week or so. What was the wisest you? The one that made efforts towards wisdom. The one that made efforts for a better life for yourself and others. The one that was kind. Find your most beautiful moment in the last week or so and step next to yourself in that moment. Observe yourself doing that act, saying that kindness, helping out. Whatever your moment is, stand by the side of that you and feel a deep joy for you. Be happy about doing good. Allow your heart to feel some kind of love for that you that did a beautiful thing. Allow that joy to expand by thinking how many other people have done kindnesses, have made efforts towards goodness. Think of them specifically if you know of them and feel joy for them. And then imagine a world where everybody was allowed to feel this good about their goodnesses? What would every day be like if people were genuinely good and happy to be so? Kindnesses all over, and joyful kindnesses. And with that thought, look up at your teacher. Ask them please to always teach you. To stay close. And just watch them smile at you, love you for your efforts and for your kindness. And you are drawn together. They begin to rise up in front of you and turn to face the same direction you're facing, getting smaller and smaller until they're just resting at the crown of your head, protecting you, giving you instant access to all their wisdom and compassion. You, the mind that perceives them, contains their qualities through perception. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Back to the room. That was nice. Yeah. Thank you. Everyone was really still. It was very nice. Yeah, it's nice to see. So a couple of logistics. We skipped last week's class because apparently there was a better teacher in town. Amazing Geshe Michael Roach was in town. Did you all go to the Wheel of Life teachings? No, it was really good. Welcome. It was lovely. Yeah, it was magnificent. So he covered all of the things I was supposed to cover this class, so that's it. Let's go. No, I didn't finish the previous class. Homeworks and quizzes? No? We didn't print any, did we? Next week you'll get homeworks and quizzes for this class. And last classes, as well as you've done them already.
We do have homeworks and quizzes from previous classes, tournaments, and yes, Flavia's in Argentina.
Yeah, so Flavia won't be finishing the class live, she'll do it online. So homeworks and quizzes to Steve. Yeah. Okay, so let's quickly talk a few minutes about the basics of this course. This course is a course on karma. It's course 5 out of 18. Each course is designed to build on the previous. So in your minds, over a 5-year period, you get soaked into a deep dive into the conceptualization and practices of Tibetan Buddhist philosophy. And in there's a couple of yogic texts and commentaries from India and some other stuff. That really, it's rare, unless you're doing an MBA or some, puffy hat degree, PhD or whatever at Columbia, or where the teaching is in DC, you rarely get the depth that we're going to get here. So the focus here is not so much the academic study, although it's important to know where the sources of these ideas come from. But the flavor we'd like to have here at the Three Jewels is to put some practice into it. Because without an experience of these things, they just become blah, 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 blah. So I'm going to encourage you to review over and over and over for the sake of cementing some of these ideas in your head. So when you're out and about and things are in your face and you want to react a certain way, you have the choice to pull out of your toolkit a different response to this world, different to the way we normally do things around here. And the understanding of karma is a pivotal point in all of Buddhist study, and the idea of emptiness is another pivotal point, and together they create the poles, if you like, to your world in this philosophy. So let's spend a few minutes to just review what you got out of either the Wheel of Life teaching, because Geshe-la covered some basics on karma, and what you got out of this course so far. So I'm going to ask you first, what are we studying? A book called Abhidharma Kosha. Yeah? It's a translation in French, there's another translation in English. It's a thick volume. How many chapters? 8 chapters. It's actually a crazy book. It was written by Master Vasubandhu. So this is a philosopher of around about
450.
A long time ago.
a long time ago. Paul got it right. Thank you. Anyone? All right. Long time ago. Until you get it. And in it are the collection of the Buddhist speech.
350.
AD.
Yeah.
Master Vasubandhu is the brother of Master Asanga, good, both of which probably make up 80% of the Tibetan canon in the school we study. So these are brilliant ideas collected from the time of the Buddha into one book called Abhidharma Kosha, which means the treasure house of knowledge. So all knowledge is contained there in 8 chapters. And it's just a bizarre science fiction book about where planets come from, what atom looks like, how people can transplant babies from one womb to another. It's a bizarre, you would read it. If you didn't know this was Tibetan study, you would think this is just some bizarre science fiction story. And locked in there are how worlds come to be, how universes come and go, the massive cosmology of the universe, and the tiniest, they have names for these tiny subatomic particles. I mean, they don't call them atoms, they call them the one that looks like dog and the one that looks like sheep. And, like, they have these funny names, but they're talking about subdivisions of matter. They explain the existence of all things without exception in a brilliant way that plays with your mind. And it plays with your mind because you can't escape these umbrella concepts that they're giving you. Like, there's nothing above it that you can do just by the sheer way they present it through logic. So they're saying if you grab all existing things, you can divide them into 2, changing or unchanging. Wow, that's true. Is there anything outside changing or unchanging? Damn it, I can't think of anything. And so your mind is stuck with their point of view. And then in the changing world, you have physical matter, and then you have mental, and then you have this other division. And then so that's all the changing things, which is 99% of all things. And then they begin to dissect each part of that. They describe the cycles of universes coming to being into some kind, starts off with some kind of big bangness, but it's not really a big bang, it's the closest thing we can relate to. It goes through what it takes for beings to exist, it goes through beings from other planets and other systems. It's bizarre. Yeah. And in there, locked in there, there's a chapter on how these universes come to be. How is it that whole universes come and go, that existence come and go? That's the chapter on karma. So after they've explained all the beings and the universes and the creation of things and the destruction of things and the movement of things and the suffering of things, and how things break down all the time, they look at all these laws. Then they say, well, how is it really? What is it that we can use to explain why these things? What did the Buddha say, who saw all things? And they start talking about the laws of karma. And then there's division after division after division after division of karma, because it's one of the deepest concepts that you have. They say it's out of the three types of reality, it's the most hidden of all realities, is understanding of how things come and go, karma. So that was the big introduction of what we're studying. What's karma? What's karma? Because they say that karma creates all your universes, creates all your worlds. So what is karma?
Any action of body, speech,
Movement of the mind. I'm going to challenge that a little bit, because we're going to go a little bit deeper into another division, right? But in essence, it says it's a movement of the mind. Movement, I'm doing the gesture forward. So I can, at the end of the class, I can challenge that later. But so far we've gone, any movement of the mind is karma. It's not like the common idea of karma. It will smash the common idea, Western idea of karma at the end of this course. You won't be able to think that anymore after you go deep into all these ideas. You won't be able to think ignorantly about karma. You will have enough ammunition by looking at just some of the hundreds of divisions of presenting karma. Karma is this, divided into 3. Karma is this, divided into 5. Karma is this, divided into 2. And we've done a few of those, right? So they say karma is the movement of the mind. So, and then you have 2 basic kinds of karma. Before that. Motivating. And so these are words, but my job is to get them to be practical for you. So your mind moves. Anytime your perception shifts, your mind moves. It's a karma. And they say 65 times a millisecond you have movements of mind. So then the first one is the motivating karma, which is just a thought. And there's 3 vehicles or 3 doorways in which you can experience or plant karmas, right? Which are
body, speech, and mind.
Body, speech, and mind. That's where the whole body, speech, and mind things come from. But the motivating part is the mind. So you sit there and you have your mind moves towards something, and then you choose to say something. You look lovely today, but your mind was the one that alerted you that that thing over there is looking nice. I've got a sensation. It's like interesting. And Geshe-la covered that a little bit in the dependent origination section of the Wheel of Life. And so you do one of 2 things. After your mind moves, you do one of 2 things, which is you say something or you do something. I go and hug you or something. That's it. That's basic karma. What else do you remember from the stuff we've covered?
Yes.
Yeah.
They say in a few philosophies that the mind is not a heart, so people do something from their heart and something from their mind.
The mind is not the heart. Is that what
Yeah.
they say? In some philosophy, I think in this one we say that the essence of mind is the heart at the end of the road.
Mm-hmm.
But it depends what they're identifying when they say the heart. Are you saying it's the motivation? I think you're saying it's the emotion. In this school, mind is anything that's non-physical about you. So an emotion would be mind, a sensation that's non-physical would be mind, a memory, a dream, subconscious. All those things are mind. And you have main mind, the big thing that's you, and then you have mind functions, and mind, you can divide them through your sense powers or something. That's what it means. So, last class, I want to jump forward now. Let's do one more. There's 4 of something. Let's divide karma by 4. What division of 4 do you have for karma? How does karma ripen?
In this lifetime?
Oh, good. That's the division of 3. Let's do 3. So, with some explanation of it, you can get karma to ripen in
This lifetime?
this lifetime,
Next lifetime?
in the next lifetime,
And future.
and anything beyond the next lifetime, future. There's 3 ways that once you plant an action, you drop a seed into your consciousness. That seed can pop up before you die in this lifetime, assuming you die, in the next cycle of life, or in the one after. Okay, good. I think I forgot about that one. Okay. Which means you have to accept past lives, which you should have been here in the previous course.
I have another 3.
What's the other 3?
Virtuous, non-virtuous.
Good. So karma can come in 3 flavors, 2 flavors and 1 blandness, I guess. Positive flavor, negative flavor, and all that. You know, we get lots of mess, like all the background noise, all the unconscious stuff, like, you know, the texture of the floor, you don't think about that at all. You know, the space between you and the ceiling, they're all background karmas. They are karmas, they are perceptions of mind, but they're not super pleasurable until you bring your attention to them. That's another story. Thank you, that was good. More? Any more?
4 consequences?
4 consequences of karma. Yeah, so karma will manifest itself in 4 ways. Good. Do you remember that?
Ripening, corresponding,
Environmental, which is really like special.
corresponding habit, corresponding experience.
Good. Good. So you, isn't that amazing?
That's incredible. I don't, again, what are they again?
Ripening,
Go for it, yeah.
corresponding experience.
Ripening, which is namin. Okay? Namin. Let me just see if I'll find you the Tibetan for it so you can recall. The ripening result, the corresponding experience, habituation, yeah, so you build a habit, taste for it, and environment. So let's give it a practical example. Let's say you plant a karma of stealing. Yeah, let's say we stole something. You plant a karma, a strong karma of stealing. Let's say that karma ripens in the next life. Give me an example of how the first of those 4 would.
Born in a lower realm.
You would be born on a lower realm. Out of those lower realms, which do you think is probable for you? Hungry ghost. Why?
Because you're constantly experiencing a state of scarcity.
Yeah, scarcity. Wow, that's good. Is it scarcity? Is it scarcity or scarcity?
Scarcity. Okay.
Sorry, I don't know. I'm like, oh, she's got a new word. I didn't know that word. I was believing you. So, you know, a stingy state of mind, a wanting, a coveting other people's thing would ripen you into a state of being that is in one of the 3 lower realms, assuming you buy that stuff, and so everything you experience would have that same corresponding flavor, which is
You keep experiencing.
you keep experiencing things being taken away from you. So you have a shiny object, like a beautiful stream where you could go and drink from, and as you get close to it, it turns to blood and pus and horrible. So you have this scarcity beginning to present itself in its corresponding part of the result. And then the habit for it, how does that manifest? Let's say you were lucky enough not to be born as a spirit being, but you were born as a human. How would you then experience the habit?
Repeat.
You tend to repeat. You have a craving for it. You have a taste for it. You get this overwhelming. You look at people's things and you think, oh, that would be good in my apartment. You know, she's not looking. Maybe I can put it in my pocket. Or you take the glass from the bar. My dad had that when we were moving from Australia to from Argentina to Australia. We went on Cathay Pacific, long flight, and by the time we got to Australia, my dad had a bag full of their glass plates and cutlery, and we just had a whole set for the 6 of us. We had a whole set of cups and plates and knives and forks, and there were glass back then. And I'm like, how did that happen? You know, he couldn't help himself. There were shiny, attractive objects. You know, for that. We ate off these square plates for ages. Yeah. So you get the habit for it. Yeah. And then the environment. How would the environment, so you've planted a karma in a previous time, stealing or coveting, yeah? You now have a direct experience that things are lacking for you. Yeah, your very physicality forces you to experience that, whether it's the ripening, meaning your body and shape, or your corresponding result, meaning you don't have stuff around you that keeps being taken away, like my internet, or and you develop a habit for it. You can't stop yourself wanting other people's stuff.
Or you were born in Russia.
Oh, you're born. No, but that's it.
I'm
No?
Russian.
Yeah, no, but that's it. The environment is, it's okay to steal. It's okay. It promotes itself. The temptation is somehow available to you, and it's not a big problem. Yeah. So your environment sort of forces you or allows you to continue this.
I thought the environment was more like the opposite of that, where it's kind of like the experience of scarcity. Again, like being born in Russia.
Oh, yes, I see, where you have crops that don't work and doctors that don't function.
Oh, it's paranoid. Things that take.
Yeah, I guess that one could be the habit, you're right, and that one could be the environment. Yeah, where you don't have enough stuff. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Does that also mean that the environment that is around you makes it harder for you to break that cycle? Like it almost.
That's where I was going with her, and partly it's like that as well. So I'm trying to think of sexual misconduct. You know, classically we do the 10, and we try and say, well, what's your corresponding result, and what's your namin, etc. And for that, the environment tends to be a place that's filthy and disgusting and hard to clean, and there's urine everywhere, and it's smelly and so on. So I'm trying to apply your correction to that, and I'm not sure if you.
So the environment normally helps, or the environment normally.
No, I got it wrong. Steve's right. The environment usually makes it hard for you to get the opposite of what you're doing.
Oh, so you're supposed to be born in an Asian country where they kill for stealing, for example. In this case.
No, you'll still be born in Russia, but you have stuff stolen from you a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, so or you can move to Argentina and have the same response.
You'd be the one in Russia that everybody's stealing.
It's stealing from, yeah. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. No harm to Russians. Okay, that was really
So
good.
how can you tell the difference of a seed ripening and a planting?
Oh, how lovely. We'll get to it before the end of the class. But I don't have a direct experience of that. So all I can do is I can share with you what's in the Abhidharma Kosha, and also what a commentary, the Lamrim Chemo by Jason Kappa, talks about that slightly. Okay? But it's worth spending time in there, because that's a meditation on emptiness.
Because if karma is forced upon us,
Yeah.
it's like, where's that window?
Where's the gap where you have, it's worth spending time on it. And I'll talk about the difference between a path of karma and a karma, which is where I'm going to tweak what we've covered so far. So don't forget that's a good thing, and you're not going to resolve it today. You're just going to get a taste for something, and next week we'll go again. And looking at all these different presentations should give you enough of a 3D effect. There'll still be all these missing pieces which require your experience. But out of this object that you're creating and understanding on karma, I've given you this division and that division, and they're like little panels on a 3D object that through practice you will get to see that object for yourself. That's the whole point of Swalavisi. And that's a hard one, because at what point does my mind experience, and then at what point does it act? At what point is it and then if you look at the seed metaphor, at what point does it stop being a seed and become a seedling? Or take the seedling metaphor, at what point is it a seedling and then becomes a tree? Like, where is the space in between? It's an impossible thing. Like Geshe-la said at the thing, it's very interesting to think about. It's a meditation on karma. So then from that, course 5, before I review last course, I'm just doing everything so I know you said you're new, you can catch up. I don't know who you are, so welcome. So we can catch up, but also so your ideas can be cemented into something practical in your head. These are words. What does it mean to have them turn into experience for you? Because the idea is, if you experience the world with these ideas, with this philosophy, you do not have to undergo the suffering that brought most of us here in the first place. People are seeking some answers because there's no answers where they seeked. Is that a word? Yeah. So seeked, sought, socked. There's something that doesn't function in the everyday world. Getting a job and getting your career and earning the money and putting the money in the bank, and you still have suffering and you don't understand. You try all these things and they alleviate the problem for a little while and then it doesn't work. And if we're honest with ourselves, at some point you realize that. Hopefully not too old. And then you either want to do something about it or you give up. You give up on all this stuff in this world, and you have your own quirks and you live your own life and you wait for death. And some of us, or some people, still have hope that there's an answer out there, so they're digging around all these things. The idea is, if you get this, if you build your perspective on this, nobody can do it for you. No Buddha can go and go ding and do it for you. You need to gather the information, drink the Kool-Aid, experience the world through this point of view, and then you have your answer. And according to them, this is the way to remove all suffering. If you get karma as one slice, one part, and then wisdom or emptiness. But it's not something that can be handed to you all of a sudden. You get it all like a Advil and the headache goes away for good. It's not like that. So the idea of getting this stuff inside of you, trying to practice it or experience it, should transform your mental DNA to a point where you then begin to have control about how you build your world away from that suffering towards a perfect bliss. It's possible, according to the system. Sorry, preaching, I'll go back. How karma is carried. That was an important question. Let's talk about that for a second. We went to one of the 4 schools of Tibetan Buddhist philosophy called the Mind-Only School, and they have an amazing way of explaining it, although the highest school tweaks it a little bit. But basically the idea is correct. So let's talk about what the Mind-Only School says is how we carry karma, how karma is carried from moment to moment in you, in order to give you a result, in order to turn into something, in order to be your universe, your experience. So give me some words for what?
Bakchak.
Bakchak. What's a bakchak? A seed. Okay, good metaphor for bakchak. It's a mental seed. Okay, so every action of body, speech and mind produces a bakchak. You imagine this big pool, this massive pool. This is not how it is, but you imagine it as a pool of bubbling seeds. Millions and millions of them. That's just this year. 65 a second. Imagine all of them for your entire life.
And they grow.
And they grow. What's the rate of growth? Does anybody remember?
Double every 24.
Double every 24 hours is a good way. Yeah. So if you were kind to somebody, that's doubling in your, what's the pool called?
Kunchi.
Kunchi. So, do you remember Kunchi?
I remember the drawing.
Okay, good. So all these seeds are sitting there multiplying, double every 24 hours, double every 24 hours, double every 24 hours. And you've done some really shitty things that are getting stronger and stronger. And you've done some magnificent things which are getting stronger and stronger. And you've done some neutral things, probably a lot of them, which are getting stronger and stronger, creating your universe according to this. They sit in your kunchi, which is a separate consciousness in your mind, according to the Mind-Only School. just quickly to dispel that from the higher school, the Prasangika point of view, where does that stay? Where does the whole seed pool stay? In
the perceiving.
In the you, in the simple you they call, which is just the nominal, unexamined me, your mind moving from moment to moment. It is just there.
Which school is it?
This is the high school of Prasangika, Madhyamika Prasangika. They say you don't need a separate slice of consciousness. You don't need more than the 6 consciousnesses that we talked about in the previous course. You don't need a separate pool for all the karmas to hang out. Yeah, or if you go to the Abhidharmas, who was the one that had the cloak? Can't remember the cloak.
Is that the Madhyamika?
No.
No, that was the Abhidharmas.
It was the Abhidharmas, right? So the lowest school says you also get this cloak that covers you every time you do a karma. That's one way of looking at it. It's okay to imagine this because we need visualization. But it's not like you have a cloak covering you every time you do a karma. Because imagine if you do 65 every second and then they multiply for 2 hours and a big thick cloak. Yeah.
Are the 6 consciousnesses with the same 6 bodies? Like 6 layers of a person? Or not?
No, they are the main mind, the eye consciousness, the ear consciousness, and the consciousness. The consciousness that perceives text, the consciousness that perceives.
Wait, what was your question? It was the 6 consciousnesses.
Yeah.
The same as the 6 levels of a being, you're saying. No. So, the seeds are in this pool called your kunchi. The seeds are called bakchaks. You see an object. Let's call the object round, red, oval, with some squiggly lines. That object then provides the basis that goes through your eye power, not consciousness, eye power, meaning the part of your eye that can sense dark and light. Yeah? And that sends a signal to your brain, which then your mind interprets as an eye consciousness from the eye sense power as a angry, yelling person. Yeah? And it has the flavor. So far, the eye cannot, the object that the eye is perceiving cannot tell you it's an angry person. You're fortunate if you think it's a circle. That in itself has a problem to analyze. But let's say your eye does catch that it's a circle, because you can't even define it's a circle. It's a shape and color of some shape. Yeah? It goes through your eye power, so something physical now happens. Yeah? And it says, oh, there's a round thing and a redness and some shapes. And your eye consciousness, your mind, then synthesizes that into a perfect shape that is called the yelling angry boss with the flavor of dislike, right? Because you could have a red, round, oval face yelling at your worst enemy at work, and you would call that round, oval, screaming thing as a pleasure. You go, that's awesome, finally he's getting what he needs. So your mind is the interpreting part of all that data. Not only that, your mind perfectly synthesizes a yelling, screaming boss with all the detail that's impossible for you to perceive at that moment. Like his back of his head, like his motivations, like your mind is projecting onto that object a whole bunch of things that aren't there. They are your bakchaks ripening. They are your, according to the mind-only school and our school as well, they are the things, the karmas opening up, placing upon that object all the meaning and shape and detail that doesn't exist there. Yeah? That there's no back to his head from your perception. But your mind tells you there is a full 3D figure over there. And it will tell you a story about why he's vindictive and he believes what I believe and, all this stuff. So that's that. According to the mind-only school, is there an object outside of the eye? Is there something that the eye is perceiving? Huh?
No.
No, by the nature of the mind-only school's name, they think it's all in the mind, that it's actually the one butt chuck is producing the eye, the cells in the eye, it's actually producing the experience of that as a real thing, and by extension, the thing it's watching, and it's producing all the sensations. So they're saying mind produces mind, it's observing mind producing mind. That's why it's called a mind-only school. But the idea is not too far off. If you really analyze what's going on, if you slow down second by second any experience, and I challenge you to pick the experience that most irks you or that most overflows you, and apply this thinking. What can you really see if it's a visual thing? What can you really hear if it's a beautiful song? And really look at the emptiness of the sounds of that song. There's something that moves you to dance, for example, those sounds that move you to dance, that completely move your body in a certain direction. It's a magnificent thing. What are those sounds? Where does those sensations come from? Where do they reside? Did it come from that vibration over there, or did the vibration happen over here? And did that interpret the vibration, or did something else interpret the vibration? And where did that come from? If you apply the mind-only school, you will come to the realization that it's just your mind flavoring a perfect reality. Does it make the reality not real?
How do you talk about interdependence in mind only? Like that?
Yeah, perfect, good. Interdependence, like dependent arising, for them means it produces the I conscious sense and the perceiver. That's what that means for them.
So you're like playing your own.
You're just watching yourself. Yeah, it's John Malkovich. Yeah, it is. Yeah, but then how do you do dependent origination with the Madhyamika Prasangika point of view? The one that says, no, you don't need another sense thing, and you don't need another consciousness pool. The collection of karmas flow with you, the nominal you. How do they explain dependent origination? So dependent origination is another big concept. The wheel around is one way of explaining it. There's other ways of explaining it. But all dependent origination means is this experience originated dependent upon something else. Yeah? So I'm only experiencing a yelling boss dependent upon, he arose because he is depending on some other thing. And then there are all these schools of Buddhists that describe what those things are. And that's what their four main schools are. Yeah? So some say it's dependent on, we would say unexamined, we would say depending on what? He yelled depending on what? Dependent on what?
How you treated someone.
Not without study. We were in a normal office in Manhattan.
Oh.
The boss yelled at you, and you didn't have any of this insight. And you said, why the hell did he scream?
This is a jerk.
Because this is a jerk, right. So what should I do? Yell back. What a dick, right? Oops, penis. Yeah, oops, I said it all wrong again. You think it's coming from him. The yelling comes from him. He's the aggressor. He's the horrible, terrible thing. In order to stop him, ignorance, punch him in the face. Yeah? That'll shut him up. Or yell back or say something really nasty. That'll stop him.
Works every time.
Every time. It works all the time. Yeah. All the time. So unexamined, we would do that. We would face hate with hate. Aggression with aggression. And what this is saying is that's what's causing your suffering. You want more aggression? Yell back. You want more yelling, boss? Yell louder. You want less stuff? Take other people's stuff more. You want less love? Don't care for others. This is saying, you want a perfect world, you be the change you want to see in the world. You don't want a yelling boss, it's not out there. The mind-only school presented it as in it arose from your past deeds of yelling at somebody. If you understood that, really the last thing you would do is yell back. Because you don't want another yelling, because it's an unpleasant result. It's a negative karma. You don't want it. If you don't want it, don't do it. That's it. But why not do it? Then you get deeper into emptiness. We'll cover that a little bit today. So I think we did that okay. Yeah. There's a diagram that goes along. If you haven't got the diagram, I'll give you the diagram before we go, etc. And then we went on to class 6, which was, we did half of it last week, and we presented Maitreya's 6 steps of how your mind actually creates a karma. Do you remember those 6 steps? Let's hear them. So this is another presentation, another slice of presenting karma. There are 6 consecutive steps. 6, if this happens, that happens. 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 And this explains 6 ways in which we create karma. Yeah, karma and emptiness. The depends between the two.
The first one's the bhakcha.
The first one is that you already come equipped with this beautiful thing called ignorance. You have a bhakcha for ignorance. What does ignorance? It doesn't mean you're stupid. Doesn't mean you're a stupid person. No. What does ignorance mean in Tibetan Buddhist philosophy?
You don't understand karma and emptiness.
Yeah, give it simple words without using karma and emptiness.
You don't understand the reality of how things work.
Correct. So the world functions, your world, not somebody else's world, your whole universe, every detail of it operates in a way in which we don't understand what that is. What's the proof of that? What's the proof that we have injected into us, born into this world, with this thing running through our veins called ignorance about how things really work?
Because we go on and on making the same mistakes.
We have this.
Everything happens.
Yes.
Yeah, everything disintegrates. We have all these mistakes. Even the nicest things turn away. Not only that, when we get the nicest things, we get bored of them. It's a horrible, horrible thing. We don't even know we're in samsara. If you have the gall to observe it really, right, and have some humor about it, because you could get terribly depressed, right? Don't get terribly depressed, because that would just be adding suffering to suffering, right? There's something stupid about it. Yeah, like there's something comically stupid about this place. We have cycled. I mean, it really is bizarre. If you bumped into us as a race and this world as a place, yes, you'd have the awe and wonder of all the beautiful things that exist. It's not negating that beautiful things don't exist. But anything that necessarily must end in a suffering can't be called a pleasure. And that's the whole metaphor of tasting honey from a razor blade. Yeah, so the first instant of the honey on your tongue is sweet, and the second instant is sweet, and your tongue is going deeper into the thick, beautiful, sweet honey, and it must end because it's on a razor blade with a deep gash on your tongue. It's a suffering. It's not tasty honey. It's not like we're addressing a lovely world that we want to get rid of some of the suffering. The place is imbued with something yucky, and it's not out there. This is saying the first of Maitreya's step is that we have a bhakchak, we have bhakchaks, like injected in us DNA, in our blood system, called ignorance. The ignorance that we don't even see our own suffering, let alone understand where it comes from. Because we keep hurting people so they stop hurting us. We take from people so we have more. It's all mistaken. It's upside down. We create this place. So the first step is It's worth thinking about. You know, you just look at the subway and then look at people on the subway and think, well, what are they doing to get happy? People want to be happy. You should want them to be happy. Even people that are doing stupid things, you should want them to be happy. Because whatever little morsel of happiness they get, they're lucky to get. You know, we have all this fortune, all this beautiful fortune. We're lucky. We're not, like, you have some kind of strange buck chuck to find the want to understand. You know, I hope this helps some, but ultimately you have to construct it. Yeah. So what's the second one? So the first one is you are born instantly with this karmic seed, this buck chuck. Second one.
But why are you born this way if children are not this way?
You have to ask Lady Gaga. I had to do it. Born this way. It's a joke.
It's fine.
Anyway.
But like, if you take a look at children,
Yeah.
you're not born this way. It's social programs that get imposed on you. No.
No, they say that anything birthed in samsaric realm. Yeah, you were a child once. Yeah.
Yeah.
You watch children and some children. So, for example, they've done experiments where children pre-talk get given a bowl of candy or something next to another kid, and there's all these types of kids. Some kids eat them all up like in first few seconds, and they just sit there and go, Usually the fat kids, and then that's not true. I just said that to be mean, and then. And then there's other kids, other types of kids, right? Same age, same demographic. They sit there and they go, they wait. And the fat kid's looking at this other kid's bowl going, can I have some? Can I take? So they're like, I need more. And this one's like, no, the only way to keep candy is to pace it out. No one's taught them yet. They've just figured it out. So this is saying we come to this world already with some predisposition. They say the worst of all predispositions, the one that is ignorant, and this is not like a judgment like original sin might be or something like that, because we're talking about that today. It's like original sin is like you're screwed if there's original sin because somebody else imposed it upon us. You've got no choice. Too bad. This is saying something different. This is the way your mind is perceiving the world isn't quite grasping how the world works. That's all. Animals and humans alike. Yeah, it's just because we're doing all the things that are producing suffering rather than permanent happiness. If we figured out permanent happiness, we wouldn't have the class. Yeah, so there's so the first of these Maitreya says is we come to this world with this idea, with this lack of understanding, and that produces the next steps. What's the next one?
Two tendencies.
You have a tendency for two things, yeah? To see two things as self-existent, yeah?
Me and mine.
Me and mine, which are the two core drivers. So now you see. Imagine it's not you, just for a second, because it's actually easier to think of some other third party, yeah? They pop into a world, they're not sure how this world works. Yeah, because they don't understand cause and effect. The metaphor I used at the beginning of this course was, we know that trees come from seeds. That's the main cause of tree, is seed. We also know that seed cannot produce tree without water, light, earth, nutrients, and all this other stuff. The magic of how it happens, another question. But we know that at the essence it needs. The seed is the thing that flops over into a tree. But without the conditional factors, or the, what are they called? They're more than conditional factors. They are the contributing factors, are the dirt and the water, etc. Misunderstanding your world. Ignorance doesn't mean you don't know, it means you misknow. You think it's the wrong thing. Would be thinking that water is the thing that produces tree. You're completely blind to a whole network under the ground of seeds and roots and all this other stuff. You think trees come from water. You're close, but you're not there. It's still mistaken. So the first one is there's beings that come into their world misunderstanding where things come from. Water produces trees. Incorrect correlation. That gives you rise to this idea of me and mine. You think things are self-existent. They exist on their own side. Therefore, I am Hector, and these are my arms. You touch my arms, I'm probably going to get upset if you harm them, or get happy if you do nice things to them. Yeah, these are mine. These are my clothes. This is my experience. These are my feelings. America is perfect at the me and my. Yeah, we invented me and my in America. So that produces a tendency, not knowing where things come from, tends to divide things and say, this is me, that's mine, that's not me, this is me. Yeah? It creates those tendencies to see things separate as self-existent. Because we don't understand where they come from. What happens next?
We get things backwards.
We get things backwards, meaning, what's the third step?
We
Attracted to.
We get it. Yeah, go on.
we think that happiness or unhappiness comes from those things.
So they begin to appear attractive or unattractive, right? So that you think that's honey over there. It tastes sweet from its own side. Or she frowned at me. She, separate to me, is angry at me. I'm feeling disturbed. This feeling comes from her. Yeah? That's step 3. What's step 4?
Sorry, in step 2 you talked about me and mind.
Me and mine,
Oh,
not mind. Yeah. The thing that's me, and the thing belonging to me, which is mine.
Because you think happiness or unhappiness comes from that thing out there, you react to it.
That's 3 or that's 4?
It's 4.
Wait, so 3 again is?
A, B, C, D. Based on your 4 is ignorant liking and ignorant disliking. Yeah? So 3 is things appear to you as attractive or unattractive from their own side. 4 is you begin to like them or dislike them because you believe they are the things producing the attractiveness or the unattractiveness. Does that make sense? Yeah? And 5,
Because of how you react to those things.
because of ignorantly liking it and disliking it, because of all the things before,
collect karma all over again.
because you've acted. You've taken action. You take action of ignorantly liking something, you move towards it. You grasp at it. You take it.
Do.
Huh?
You think, say, do. Think, say, do.
You think, say, do something. Excellent. Yeah. So let's review them. Number 1, you're born with
Ignorance.
meaning.
Misperception of where the world comes from.
Yeah. So don't think of it as you're naughty for being born this way. Think of it as you're born into a system and you don't know how the system works. Yeah? Not only that, you misknow how the system works. It's not that you're a blank slate. You come with a predisposition to misunderstand. You think water produces a tree. Yeah? That kind of thing. Because of that, because we have that misperception, you have 2 tendencies.
Me and mine.
Me and mine. You have to see 2 things as self-existent. I exist by my own nature. Everything that happens to me and mine is an imposition on me and mine. Yeah? So you have 2 tendencies. You have a tendency to grasp onto this idea of me because you don't understand that what you really are in this world. 3rd, so from this tendency to see things as self-existent, me and mine, you decide, things begin to appear to you as attractive or unattractive. I like that, I don't like that. Which brings to rise step 4, which is you ignorantly like or dislike something. You make a decision from that's attractive, now I like it. That's unattractive, I dislike it. You begin to make judgments in your mind and you solidify those objects as if they are the cause of your sensation of attractiveness or unattractiveness. Yeah? 4, 5. Once you've decided, I like, dislike, you start to do stuff. Either
That's the planting of the new karma.
that's actually the planting of the karma, step number 5. So because of that, now how does that work? And we've been looking at all the divisions. How does the planting actually work? Because you ignorantly like something or ignorantly dislike something, you go and do something with it. You say something, you do something, or you think something. So let's say that you see somebody and you have the perception, you have the arising that they're being aggressive because she went like that. She might have been joking, but I'm in a shitty mood and I think she's the one causing my shitty mood. She did that, it's her fault. Now I'm going to yell at her, you stupid, blah, blah, blah. That's step number 5. I actually did something. I said something based on my misunderstanding. I didn't like her. Yeah?
So you create the negative karma
How?
by acting in ignorance or in anger or...
So you planted the bacha. Yeah, excellent. In your mind, you planted it there. Because the object is mistaken, the result must be mistaken.
Just by thinking for that 1 second that she's angry at you is already the planting of the karma, because it's already ignorant.
It's funny because we'll get to that. At what point does the experience of an old karma? Yeah. So if you divide these 6, I'm feeling uncomfortable. Is that me planting a karma of uncomfortable, or does the movement towards going? Is that the planting of the karma, or am I experiencing myself in a karma?
All of it is.
Right? It's a very fine line. Huh?
Just different levels.
It depends also on the way you slice and slice and
So you
slice.
could say it's a karma of the mind, then it's an action
Yeah,
in
yeah.
the body. And,
Yeah.
I guess
And
that's
maybe
where
you said
meditation
something.
comes in too, right? Because then you can
Really slow down in meditation. You will have a direct experience of dependent arising, and you get some insight into when the karma starts and when the karma ends, etc. Let's finish it because that's up to 5, and the Maitreya had 6 steps, and then I'll give you a break. So what's the 6th one? Because you've said, done, thought something, or did something,
you all of a sudden realize you're in the wheel of life.
you perpetuate the korwa, the circle, the cycling of this same flavor. You get a habit for it, your environmental results produce it, it becomes this thing, you're caught into it. So she yelled at me, I yelled at her, she yells at me, I yelled at her. You're caught in this cyclical ignorance. If you, in the middle of that, die and are born in whatever other form, assuming you understand past lives from the last course, then that inertia, I yell, she yelled, I yell, she yelled, I don't know why I think I like her or dislike her, I think she comes from her inside and I'm me and she, you bring that ignorance onto your next birth. Because it doesn't go away. Once, some of the rules of karma are once you've done it, you must experience the result. It's not like it goes away. And it's not like some godly creature is keeping note and keeping track of every single moment you're thinking something. The recorder is you. Your awareness of what you said, thought, or did. That's it. You are the judge, and you can't even pretend to judge in a different way to the one you're judging. You know when your flavor is dark and negative. You know when your flavor is positive and light. You know when you're being deceitful. You know when you're being kind. You know if you do it in public, you'll behave a certain way. You also know if you do it in private, you behave a certain way. You are always present. You are the recorder. You are the one that flavors the karmas dependent on how you perceive yourself planting. So when for example, you apply the 10 non-virtues, and one of them is called harsh words. So one of the top 10 karmas that you could do that are really nasty, one of them is called harsh words. You could say a harsh word, like a really bad swear word. And if you're in your own mind saying that harsh word and you mean it with hatred, it's a harsh word. But if you're at the counter of, I don't know, you're doing some shopping at Walgreen, and you're not quite getting the service you want, and you begin to get this, I'm all this important and she is not serving me, and you decide there's a line behind you so you can't be too rude, but inside of your mind you really want to swear at this person, but you don't. You look at her and smile and go, thank you so much for the great service. The words are kind. That's harsh words. If you know they understand the intent, but you're recording it. You're the one doing the thing. So that's how the flavors get planted. You can't escape them. You never have. You never will. May as well be kind. Eat some cookies. See you at 9:05. Thanks. Then we'll start class. No, we won't. We'll start the part that I didn't finish. Sorry. Any questions? You're welcome as well.